Hey guys, sorry about the noise in the background. My air conditioner will turn off soon. For the time being, this is what we're working with. So, doing a Q&A today. I asked some questions on Instagram and I got some great ones. And I'm going to do a bit of a Q&A mishmash of questions. So, question number one is, do you have to go all in to recover? I'm a spin instructor and I feel I'm losing my identity. And I love this question so much because that second piece, I feel like I'm losing my identity. This comes up for almost every single person that I talk to with HA. They're losing their identity as the fit person, the healthy person, the person that always eats well, the person that exercises every day, or the person that has always been thin. I've heard them all, right? Like growing up, I was always thin and people called me, the runt. And so they start to identify with that. Or I'm a spin instructor and so everyone knows me as that and I have to stop doing that. And so who am I and what am I? When we really zoom out and look at this, what an amazing opportunity to remove this obsession with identifying with this random stuff that's honestly bullshit and identify with something new and that's more true for you. You are more than a spin instructor. You are more than the thin girl. You're more than the girl that eats healthy. You're just like to be saying I'm losing my identity because I'm gaining weight, or I'm losing my identity because I'm not working out every day, or I've lost my identity because I'm known for dancing or being a personal trainer or whatever. To say that is to actually be confronted with the fact that you're identifying with something that's not really that valuable. I think what you want to be identifying with, truthfully, is things that can be applied to all areas of your life, right? I am someone who is kind, who considers others, who is easygoing. And this could be a good opportunity to figure out what you actually want to identify with. And it really needs to not be these super tangible things, right? It needs to be, the more like identifying with the values that you want to have. So you value being someone who can go with the flow. You value being someone who can't be put in a box, who can't have a label put on them. This is so much more important. So that's that part to all of you who feel like you're losing your identity. Now, the first part of this question is, do I have to go all in to recover? Now, all in is a term that was coined to describe when you fully stop exercise, you hardcore start eating everything and anything you can, eating constantly, maximum calories, eating to fullness. And this is scary for a lot of people, right? Because it's the polar opposite of everything you've been doing. You typically are used to restricting calories, watching calories, you're used to working out every day. So to go hard and throw everything at the wall is really scary. And the answer is, it depends. And for many of us, there's a level of replenishing our nutrient stores and our stress levels that does require a hard stop, even if it's just for like a week or two. It really depends. And so I can't make that general recommendation for everyone because there are also some people who can just make big changes in their lifestyle. And that's typically like the direction I take with my clients, because if someone's coming to work with me, it's typically because they had issues with going all in. Because if everyone could just go all in, it wouldn't be that big a deal. It wouldn't be that hard. So typically with those people, I'm looking at everything from their job, their current exercise regime. I'm reviewing a food log of theirs and painting the widest picture, their full health history, reproductive history, and figuring out from there, where are the biggest bang for your buck, lowest hanging fruit, where are all of the places that we can start to figure out how you might be able to get your period back without making this throwing everything at the wall. How can we be more specific and see where the big issues really probably do lie for you? So that's my answer on that. Question number 2, can you talk about eating and exercising for the phases of the menstrual cycle? So yes, I can. And there's some research that people use to base recommendations about, like, basically, to put it simply, training less intensely or less in the luteal phase and around ovulation, and ramping it up and going harder in that follicular phase, the first half of the cycle. But the truth is, the reality is, you need to do what works for you. And you actually could be someone on the other side of the spectrum who performs better in the luteal phase, or performs better throughout ovulation or during their bleed. Like, it's all over the place, and I've seen it. So really the best thing for you to do is to track your cycle, or at least how you're feeling throughout the month, and kind of learn those patterns. And using that information, not so much change your training. If you want to, you can, but it really depends on your goals and that kind of thing. Like, if you're an athlete, there's not a lot you can control about your cycle when you compete and the training program that you need to do. So that might actually be less in your control. And although it would be great to make these gains and train at certain times when you feel a certain way, that's not the reality of competition. Your competition could land on the day that you get your period, and there's nothing you can really do about that. So when it comes to, like, athletes, I like to recommend that we find a way to work with our period without having to, like, make compromises and say, oh, well, I don't train a certain way at a certain time. What I really think is valuable about knowing how you feel and perform at different times in your cycle is actually just adjusting your expectations. So if you are someone who has cared a lot about their performance in the gym, like beating a certain mile time or running a certain speed, lifting a certain weight, being able to do certain skills more easily than others, you'll know that feeling of, like, sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's harder, and I feel today like I'm going backwards in my exercise. So with that, if you're actually able to notice, oh, every time I'm at this phase of my cycle, when I do have my period, I notice that I actually feel this way every month. And it kind of removes the power. It takes the power away from this belief that it feels really true when you are having a bad day. It feels true in your head that you're going backwards. But if you notice, oh, I'm always performing this way at this time, it's easier to just kind of, like, shrug off and take with a grain of salt and be like, okay, cool. In a week's time, I'm probably going to feel way better. And so you don't have to have this, like, mental breakdown around your training. So there's that benefit to it, which I think is really helpful, because if you're going through HA now, when you do start to reintroduce exercise, you'll find that is something that is a better experience for you coming back into it. And in general, if I look at there's like one study out there that shows more injuries happen to women around ovulation because of the changing of the hips and things that happen to our whole pelvic region, as well as things that happen to, our body's bone density, and it's kind of changes a little bit throughout the month. So there's some research there that might suggest you want to take it easy. But I mean, unless you're training at the highest level and you're maxing out on your best performance during that week, it's probably splitting hairs. Question number 3, favorite ways to downregulate. Take cold showers, breathing techniques, tech detox. And I like this question because this is a big part of a lot of people's journey. Oh, I'm eating heaps, I'm not exercising, like, what's up? Well, you're probably still in a really stressed state. And you're avoiding doing anything about it. So yes, breathing is important. Yes, doing a tech detox is important, 100%. Get off the Instagram, whatever. It's like, stop consuming anything that is not helping you mentally feel good about yourself and is causing self-comparison. But what's really helpful is we just want to be constantly throughout the day bringing you down into a parasympathetic state. So I could really take this advice right now. Before I came up to take this video, I was feeling stressed because I was meant to record in the morning, and then all this stuff happened and I couldn't, and now it's 1 o'clock, and this is, I'm only able to record now, and my husband was trying to talk to me, and I just was like getting more stressed because I felt like he was getting in the way of me getting back to my desk so I could do what I need to do. And that's an opportunity for me to like stop, slow down. I'm letting myself get worked up over nothing. And I'm letting this happen constantly throughout the day. And it's bringing my body into a stressed state. And what I really need right now is to be in a parasympathetic state as much as possible. During HA recovery, we want to be not spiking cortisol. So this means not drinking tons of coffee. So I can't talk. I have been doing that lately. It's not great. Well, we should not be drinking that much coffee. We should be taking it easy on stimulants in general. We should be trying to wake up after a really restful night of sleep not in a crazy alarm environment. We should be eating breakfast before we go for a walk. We should probably not be walking all that much. We should be doing workouts in the afternoon after having had substantial amount of meals during the day, all of these things. And each time we approach a anxiety-inducing moment, which could be catching a glimpse of yourself in the mirror if you're still struggling with body checking and that kind of thing. It could be any moment of self-comparison. It could be each time you have to eat a meal, it's stressing you out. It could be work. It could be interactions with certain people. Big deep breath, big slow exhale. Bring yourself back down into the parasympathetic state and keep yourself there as much as possible. That's kind of my number one tip for down regulating, because it is the most, it's the easiest to do, right? You're doing it constantly throughout the day. It doesn't cost anything to do. You don't need a fancy device for it. You don't need to set aside 10 minutes a day to go and meditate. Like, you're able to utilize this throughout the day. Notice you're having a moment, anything that's making you feel a certain way, and take a deep breath. And you could even do this in between tasks. So big deep breath, you're about to do the laundry. Big deep breath, you're gonna sit at your desk. Big deep breaths, you're finished. You're about to get on a meeting. Like, inserting this throughout the day is a helpful way to bring your parasympathetic state down and reduce cortisol and chill out, because those cortisol, insulin, those things spiking from the stress response, they're the boss of what happens to estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, FSH, LH. It comes first. So if you're not addressing the stress piece, if you're not helping your body down regulate, you're gonna have a bad time. Last question. I want to start strength training, but my period is still missing in action. Is this a bad idea? Yeah, it is. Until I get that you want to start training, but that is not a sign that you should start training. That is your disordered eating voice probably in your head saying you should train, and like you miss this and yada yada. And an element of that is true and valid, and training is good for us. Resistance training is good for us. But right now you have an injury that you need to heal, right? If you were asking me, hey, I want to start squatting again, but like I still have a broken foot and a torn patella, I'm gonna say no. And no one's gonna argue with that. But with this comes up all the time. But like exercising is my stress relief, but it feels really good, or I just don't think that that's the problem for me. And the truth is that it is. I'm a huge fan of strength training. Throughout my recovery, I did do some very easy strength training. I would have lost strength for how light I was doing it. It was very light. It was very infrequent compared to what I was doing prior. And I probably would have got my period back sooner had I not done it. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, it's not moving you forward. Sometimes with clients, we introduce it because I can see on the metrics that their body's in an okay place, but mostly because they are showing signs that like not training is way more stressful. for them at the moment. And this is a very rare case, and it shouldn't be used as an excuse to train, that like, oh, it's more stressful for me to not train, so I'm going to train. Like, you need to be really careful with that. And I think you need to get an unbiased third-party opinion. So me trying to be as neutral as possible and considering all the variables here, yes, there are some people where maybe you can train again, but for the absolute most part, it's not going to help. And for the absolute full part, you will recover sooner and fully if you do not return to strength training right now, especially if strength training is what got you here in the first place. I hope this was helpful, guys. I really enjoy doing these Q&A, so make sure you head to my Instagram so that you can ask future questions next time. And please subscribe to this channel. Do it, do it, do it, because I release videos weekly now, apparently. That's a new thing that I'm doing, so you don't want to miss a beat. Thanks, guys.